I had seen Diamante before in previous matches, um, and I had seen Willow Nightingale before in previous matches as well. Willow puts the brakes on Diamante. In other words, Diamante tries to wreck shop, beat her up, but Willow basically says no to that. And here's the thing that really got me was Willow Nightingale is like this large woman, not to like body shame or anything, but Diamante's like this small girl. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's kind of like next week, per this recording, this timeline per this recording. So, on next week's episode of AEW Dynamite, they're going to be putting Chris Jericho up against Keith Lee. And if you don't know, Keith Lee's some 250, 280 pound man. He's about 6'7", 6'8 and a half. But he can move like Samoa Joe, like a fucking bullet train. But, Diamante, this small girl, has to go up against someone like Willow Nightingale, who's this really large woman. I don't like it. I didn't like it the first time that I seen it. Don't like it now. But Diamante's playing dirty, and I can see why she is. She's using the fish hook. She's gouging the eyes. She's poking the nose. She's taking full advantage of the 5 count. Diamante hits what looks like a crossroads, but Nightingale kicks out. But I gave the match 2 out of 5 stars. It wasn't that good. It's almost like they went on vacation as far as their dark matches go, because usually their dark matches are a lot better than what we seen here today, and maybe it's just me, because usually I'm able to pick up a few gems out of their dark matches. And for that matter, I looked at the other dark matches that they had previously had, and then I said, no, I'm not watching no hour-long. There was one that was an hour and 47 minutes long, and then I said, please, love of God, no, I'll just do one episode, that's 20 minutes long, that way that I don't have to watch no hour-long episode of wrestling. It's not because I don't want to do that. It's simply because it's exhausting to look at my phone screen, know that I can't check social media, know that I can't, distract myself in one way or another, for 2 goddamn hours. For 2 hours. Can you... Like, usually whenever I'm watching the wrestling, I'm playing a mobile game, or I'm distracting myself with some music, or I'm listening to someone else's podcast, like Ted the Hillbilly Hills podcast. If you want to go and check his podcast out, I would highly advise you go do that. And I would plug his Twitter here, but apparently he's no longer on Twitter. Sent me a message few weeks back, maybe a few months back, where he was like, I'm going off Twitter indefinitely, and I didn't know what to say back to him. That's a little upsetting. Or you could check out the Late Night Wrestling Pod. If you've got nothing else to do, listen to the Late Night Wrestling Pod, and for that matter, try to make some sense out of what it is that he's saying, because Brandon's sometimes all over the place. He's more focused about reading books than he is anything else, and for that matter, a wrestling podcast is something that he chose to take a break from, so I guess more power to him. Thank you all so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me for this episode number What was it, 77? 1 second. I closed it, didn't I? You motherfucker. And of course, I'm talking to myself. I'm not calling you, my wonderful, wonderful audience, a motherfucker. But I suppose if you did fuck her, and she is your mother. What? That didn't make any sense, did it? No. Some people out here making lies, telling stories. That's funny. Episode number 77. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining me. And this will probably be the first ever edited, put together episode of the Gut Wrench Podcast, episode number 77. Thank you all so much for joining me. Good night, everyone. And, that's a wrap. Like I was mostly saying before, that I harbor, and if you're hearing this out of context, or for that matter, if you're thinking that this was poorly edited, you're probably correct, because the first 5 minutes of this show was recorded previously, and then I decided to splice this, the rest of the show into here. So, like I was saying before, though, I harbor no malice, no foul feelings toward Walmart or any of their associates. Whenever you're in a basketball court, what exactly is it that you're doing? You're shooting the ball to try to make a three-pointer. One thing that I'm not going to do, I repeat, one thing that I'm not going to do is show up at the Walmart, the local Walmart that I work for, or worked for rather, past tense, is show up at their place of work with a GUN. I am not, I repeat, I am not going to do that simply because I lost my job, because they had to make a decision because of something that was said on my show. Like the manager told me, as I probably previously stated before, I have the option, I have the wherewithal, that I choose to say, and I have the freedom to express myself however I feel. So the things that I say toward Kevin Owens, toward Sami Zayn, are because they come from a place of love. Understand that I love professional wrestling. I don't want to see it die out. I don't want to see cancer. I don't want to see cancer overtake it, and I certainly don't want to see it be destroyed. And to me, seeing Sami Zayn, seeing Kevin Owens, they are destroying something that I love. So whenever I said what I said, which was something along the lines of, oh, you should find them and shoot them, and I should find them and kill them, torture them, watch them as they are tied to a chair, as I put a VCR tape into a VCR and make them watch a recording of their children being molested, or something like that. What I'm saying is, I want to hurt them in a way that they have hurt me, because I've been really nice about this. In all reality, and don't worry, we'll start the show soon, I've been really nice about this. But here's the thing. As Walmart said, my manager said, I have the right to express myself however I feel, appropriate. And see, the thing about that is that the way that I see appropriate is that Walmart never hears the little guy. Take, for example, the fact that working at Walmart, sometimes you'll get clear-cut communication, but other times, you won't get any, if not little, communication at all. It just depends on who's your supervisor. My supervisor that I worked for, before I went and became a cart pusher, was really, really good. She was my coach. She was really, really good at being a supervisor and directing traffic toward what it was that she was, if she needed something done, she knew how to talk to you and who to talk to in order to get it done. She was really good at communicating, is what I'm trying to say. Whenever I was a cart pusher, however, my supervisor, who wasn't my coach, but was the front end team lead of the store, which is supposed to be below the coach, she was really bad at communicating. At times, it was almost like she wasn't even there. And then whenever you wouldn't get something done, it was always on that person. How come you didn't get that done? Oh, that doesn't look good. Oh, I'm not impressed by that. Look at this other guy. Look what he's doing. He's doing it. All his work is done. And that's because that other guy would have 3 other guys working beside of him, and she would put me out there by myself until those 3 other guys got done with that one side. And understand that it's a big parking lot, and that one person can't push in 4 carts of rows rather by themselves. And then whenever you would come to her with a problem, she would always talk over you, which she's not supposed to do. She was really good at talking, but not so good at listening. Understand that communication is a two-way street. One time I came to her with a problem, letting her know that I don't think that I can get done before lunch. She told me, it looks like you're not going to have a lunch unless you stop talking and get out there and get your work done. In which case, there's like 1,000, maybe 2,000 people filling the store. Or maybe that's an exaggeration. Let's say if there's 800 people coming into the store every 5 minutes, and even then that's an exaggeration, but for bigger stores, that's not an exaggeration. But for some place like Bluefield, West Virginia, sort of an exaggeration. But anyway, if there's 80 people coming in 5 minutes, then get a net profit of at least 20 to 40 carts whenever they tell me, hey, you're only allowed to push in 20 carts at a time. So by all logic, I should be pushing in 100 carts at a time, which honestly is pretty much impossible. It's something to ramble about, I guess, on a different podcast that's about, office humor. My recording keeps freezing, and I do not know why. I'm not asking it to freeze. But anyway, office humor or something of that nature, where people would sit down and they would talk, and they would, I remember that time at the office whenever, yeah, stuff like that. And my recording froze again. Anyway, what I mean to say is that you can't expect one person to get all of those things done. Whereas though that my coach, whenever I worked with her, and I'm trying not to give names because I don't know who's listening. And I don't want them to think that I'm mentioning them out of malice. Or because I'm mad that I lost my job. And in all honesty, that was my fault. But it's fine. I'll be able to find another job. I'll be able to live off of donations, my last paycheck as well. Speaking of donations, if you haven't already checked out my merchandise, I would ask you to please click the description below and look for a certain link of redbubble.com/RRA store. Now the RRA has a triple meaning. It stands for Red Rose Army, Red Ribbon Army, or it stands for the Red Rose Accessories, which is the name of course, the store, Red Rose Accessories. The Red Rose Accessories, of course, comes from the fact that the Red Rose Army, for those of you who don't know, well, actually it has a quadruple meaning if you think about it. The Red Ribbon Army back in Dragon Ball Z, Android 18 was kind of my favorite character growing up, so, I kind of had a anime crush on her. It's not important, I guess. I'm rambling for the purpose of rambling, and I'm not trying to. This episode is about professional wrestling. Don't worry. We only got 4 matches, like I said before. I think that I said that before on this card here. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Gut Wrench podcast. If I haven't already said that, which I think that I did. This is episode number 76. Let me go check that really fast. $77. My fault. And let me tell you, it's probably one of my weakest episodes, just because this whole thing right here. There's only 4 matches, like I said, and none of them are really any good. Next week I'll try to look at the AEW pay-per-view that happened this past week. And after this episode, while you're listening to it, I'm probably going to be filling out some job applications. I'm probably going to be looking, for other work other than what it is that I had before, but that's fine. Don't worry about me. Please, for the love of God, don't jeopardize. If you live in my local area, don't get mad, get upset, get pissy, throw a hissy fit. Don't show up with a GUN to the Walmart. We've had that happen so many times. I can't tell you the number of times that there have been Walmart rhymes with hooting showing up at the workplace, like don't do that. Smart about this, stupid mother. Be smart about this. Don't, it's not going to solve anything, it's not going to help the cause. If there ever was a cause, it's not going to further your career, and it's not going to get anywhere. Like I said, Walmart, and I'm gonna speak freely about this a little bit, but it's hard to talk about because I want a future with them, Walmart doesn't hear the small guy. They don't. Whenever I was working there, so many times before, would I get people who looked at me like my coaches and stuff, and then tell me that we're family. Okay, and if that's the case, and had I been working there for 2 years, like I had been, my 2-year anniversary was on April 7th. But if that was the case, then I should be able to walk up in there, present them with a problem, and them come up with a solution. Hey, how you doing? You remember me, right? I worked there. The last time that I worked there for 6 months in 2016. And they told me that exact same thing. I was family and whatever else. Whenever I came back to try to get my job back, after waiting a 6-month time period, they acted like that they didn't even know me. And Walmart is a corporate giant, right? They truly are. And I don't mean to get into business ethics or anything else like that. I really don't. Because I'm sure that you turn on this social media, this media right here, to get away from your job, or for that matter anyone talking about someone else's job. But Walmart never hears the little guy. I won't say Walmart, I should say the CEO of Walmart. And in that case, that would be Doug McMillon. The recording froze, and until thank you, I had an idea as to what it was that I wanted to say, but I don't exactly know how to go about saying it. Like I said, I have the freedom of speech. I can possibly say whatever I want. It's not going to jeopardize my future with Walmart if I ever had a future in 6 to 8 months if I was to choose to go back. What I mean to say is that they don't do a very good job. If there's one thing Walmart doesn't do a very good job at, it's listening to their smaller, and I mean their smaller people. The people who possibly give them the most effort but get the least amount of what actually goes in. You know what I mean? Your heart can't pump without blood, okay? If Walmart had a heart, the blood should not be the customers. The customer's not always right. The customer's not always first. To hell with the customers. To hell with the customers. The way that I see it, the blood that flows through Walmart is the associates who work there. Because nothing gets done if they don't show up to work day. Imagine one day all the Walmart associates just decide not to show up for work. And I mean all of them. From Toronto, Canada to Miami, Florida. I don't know what the furthest tip of Florida is, but okay, we'll just go with it. From Miami, Florida to Pensacola, Florida. Miami to Pensacola, okay. Holy crap. Toronto, which once again I don't know whether or not that's the furthest point in Toronto in Canada, to Miami, Florida. Both sides of the United States covered. If every one of the Walmart associates just decided not to wake up and go to work that day, Doug McMillon would wonder what happened to his billions, if not whatever comes after billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, or billions and thousands, and numbers go on forever, so much so that I don't know what comes up after billions. Quintillion probably, but once again, I'm not sure. Can't count that high. They don't teach you that stuff in school anyway. What I mean to say is that he doesn't appreciate them. To him, he's already He's already where he wants to be in life, and now he doesn't even have to show up to work. All he has is a whole bunch of stockholders, and he just has to make them happy. That's all that he cares about, making his stockholders happy. Because to him, the little guy doesn't matter. The little guy never wins. For that matter, he doesn't see them, so he doesn't care. WWE could be considered the same way, if you think about it. Because to Vince McMahon, everything else is irrelevant. He could care less whether you're happy with his product or not. He could care less whether you wake up in the morning and say, I have a passion for professional wrestling. To him, that's dog water. He doesn't have a passion for professional wrestling. He's Mr. Krabs. He has a passion for money. And it's not the passion that he has, it's the greed that drives him. It kills me inside, ladies and gentlemen, because for me, I'm not making any money. Nope. No money whatsoever off of this podcast. I could very well stop doing it, and it wouldn't really garner me any sort of, I don't have any sort of incentive to keep going. Other than the fact that I made a promise to someone. An empty promise is what it's become, because I've yet to reach that goal. But that's more my problem than it is yours. We open this episode with Flying Brian Pillman Jr. versus Matt Taven of the Kingdom. Really nice between back and forth between these two. A break to say hello to the crowd from Flying Brian. A nice baseball slide to Pillman as Taz is trying to convince us all that he knows good people. And he has surrounded himself with good people. That's what he says. He talks about how Matt Taven is a good person, and for that matter, he's surrounded himself with good people, such as Maria from the Kingdom. She's... Well, Maria doesn't work for AEW, even though he brought it up, but, they partner with a lot of other people, so maybe we could see Maria in AEW. And for those of you who don't remember who Maria is, WWE 06, maybe. She was the girl who had the theme song played by the All American Rejects. Here she comes again, she makes me wanna sin. My heart stops when I think about her coming. Her legs go on and on for days. She's got a hold of me, I need the remedy. My heart stops when I think about the things that she would do to me. I can't keep going on this way. I don't know. She was a quirky girl back then. She was one of those, almost like, she had a lot of personality, but she also had a lot of dumb moments. So much so that she convinced me, right, whenever she was, the Maria of old, she convinced me that she's really that stupid. But whenever I got to seeing some of the work that she did outside of WWE, I was like, okay, clearly she's not that stupid. But she was on Playboy, and she bragged about it in TNA Impact Wrestling, and apparently that got her in trouble, which I don't see how that would get you in trouble. That's a flex. I was in Playboy, used to whenever I had the first 5 or 6 episodes of this show up, like 75 episodes ago, I thought that was a flex. I have a podcast. Everyone would always be like, oh, hello? Everyone would always be like, oh, really? What's it called? And then I would tell them what it's about, and they would be like, that's cool. Anyway, and then I was like, all right, well, why did you ask me? Like, I thought that was a flex. I thought that we would be able to go back and forth. Like, hey, what's it about? How long's it been out? What's going on with it? How did you start a podcast? Can I start a podcast? I thought that for sure that was going to be something that would make me and them talk about more over things, more things than just, oh, you've got a podcast? That's nice. I like to play solitaire, and then I'm like, God damn it. Anyway, Taz says that he likes to surround himself with good people. Excalibur. This was interesting to me. Excalibur fails to recognize an easy wrestling, here it says or fiance, but that's not what I said. I must have said something like maneuver. An easy wrestling maneuver. The move is called so the move is called the headlock driver, and it used to be what EC3 used back in his days in Impact Wrestling. Hello? And he called it the 1%er. Whenever you see me say hello, I'm checking to see whether or not the sound is picking up on my microphone, because the sound bar that shows me where my audio is being recorded and at what level, it is sometimes either disappearing or it is freezing right at the peak, which means that it's not picking, just like it did now, it's not picking up my sound, which is not good. Excalibur fails to recognize an easy wrestling maneuver, which it was also known as the Dirty Deeds, before Dean Ambrose became John Moxley. Dean Ambrose also shook the hand of Mick Foley and off camera asked Mick Foley if he could start using the double arm DDT, which, I mean, if you think about it, sort of takes away from Drew McIntyre, who had the Future Shock DDT. The double arm DDT, of course, made famous by Drew McIntyre before Ambrose had it, or Moxley, however you want to look at it. Also, CM Punk in recent news made headlines. I know that I talked about this last week, but there was a fan at a convention. Or I didn't talk about this, but I talked about, of course, Punk returning to AEW and how that's such a good thing. But there was a fan at a convention who said, why... He was asking Tony Khan a question, asking Khan exactly why would he want CM Punk back on AEW roster, and then saying that he bombed at, pay-per-views or whatever. Tony Khan retorted saying that's a fucking lie and you know it. Khan also let the fan know that CM Punk has broke many records when being in AEW. Breaking many records. I say it again, not because my recording froze, but because you need to hear this. If you are a wrestling fan, and for some reason, if you are a wrestling fan, you know exactly what I'm about to say. You can't be a hypocrite anymore. I know that you were a CM Punk fan whenever he was in WWE, so why in the hell are you not a CM Punk fan now that he's not with the WWE, now that he's happy? Be happy for him. And for that matter, hang on, is somebody coming? Be happy for him. And for that matter, jump on the bandwagon. It's right there. just jump on the bandwagon, and say that you've been a CM Punk fan since 2006 or 2007 or '08, whenever he, won the ECW championship, that you've watched CM Punk grow up, and for that matter, he helped you grow up. If you've been a wrestling fan for a long time, and you were at one point in time a CM Punk fan, it's not too late to just say, oh, okay, well, you know what? I'm a CM Punk fan, and I'm not mad about it. But anyway, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Wasn't too bad of a match, but it wasn't like really, really good. Lee Johnson versus Blake Lee. Blake Lee is already in the ring before the announcers get started, and before he gets any pyro, any entrance music, anything like that. So guess who's going to win this match? Not Blake Lee. Lee Johnson's winning this match. Nice vertical suplex. Johnson with a super kick and a fisherman's neck breaker with a quick finish. Toni Storm. Oh, I gave that one 1 out of 5 stars. Toni Storm with a promo of sorts coming out to say that she's going to put the AEW's roster on notice. She uses a phrase called homegrown women. Now, what she means is the fact that they're trying to redo a storyline that was done years ago, where the invasion happened, where there were like so many members of the NWO. There's so many that it's hard to count, because there was NWO Black and White, there was NWO Red, and for that matter, there were so many members of like the NWO at the time, and whenever the WCW and ECW got bought out by Mr. McMahon in 2002, 2001, somewhere around that line, whenever that happened, it really set the stage for what a lot of people thought was going to be a great setup for a wrestling almost like conversion. But instead, Vince McMahon kept them around for like 3 months, and then after that he sort of swept them under the rug after that year's WrestleMania, almost pretending like, ECW, I never really liked them, and I'm gonna just pretend like that they didn't exist. WCW, yeah, I don't know, Ted Turner talked a lot of trash. Now that I've got his wrestling business, may as well just sweep that under the rug too. And a lot of their bigger stars never really showed up until like 5 months later, just because they had a contract that Time Warner was paying certain individuals to stay home or not wrestle. It's called a do not compete clause, for those of you wondering. But why not just stay home and collect your money, Just the easiest thing in the world to do. But they're trying to do a almost like renaissance of like, does Toni Storm still have loyalty with WWE? Or is she with AEW? Is she, like, she uses the phrase homegrown talent, and by that she means anyone who hasn't been to WWE and then came over from WWE to AEW. There's a lot of people who eat that shit up, let me tell you. They're always like, oh my god, WWE and WCW, or WWE and AEW, they're going to be at war soon. Oh no, I can't wait to see what happens next. WWE, like, they'll be on Twitter saying, at WWE, why won't you let AEW talent come over to your building? And then send that tweet thinking that they're big-brained and shit, when in fact they're not, because they don't realize that the WWE talent has a contract. It's kind of like if I had a contract with Wendy's, but I was doing a McDonald's commercial, it wouldn't make sense. I can't say ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. By the way, they're not sponsored. I can't say that. And me being, a Wendy's employee, somebody's going to get, I almost said shot. Oh my God. What's wrong with me? Don't go out, and I do not promote gun violence. Once again, nobody here's the little guy. Do not promote gun violence. You're going to hear me on that one. Josh Woods versus Daisy K. Daisy K is making his AEW debut, so you already know who's going to win. Josh Woods, of course, who has been in the company for quite some time. Daisy K is making his AEW debut, so you know who's going to win. Daisy is not getting entrance, and he already was in the ring once they came back from the Tony Storm promo from earlier that I just got done mentioning. Taz says he's bought himself a whole section of the ocean. So he starts going on a ramble about the fact that he bought himself a whole section of the ocean. Not the land, the ocean. Keep in mind that to buy the ocean, to buy a section, a section of the ocean. Come on, I mean, those are international waters, so you know that he's just playing tomfoolery a little bit. But anyway, just hear what he says. He says that he bought himself a whole section of the ocean. Not the beach or land, the ocean. In West Palm Beach, Florida, he also bought himself some oil riggers, and he's going to invest in oil. What used to be known as international waters is now known as Taz waters. And he will pay Josh a small percentage of what he makes to protect his oil riggers that he's got at the bottom of the ocean. A small section of the ocean that he paid for over in West Palm Beach, Florida. As they start to focus on the match in the ring, but I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. It wasn't that good. It was just a squash match. Daisy K got wrecked. Get wrecked, kid. Get the hell up out of here. Every time that Daisy K tried to do something, it made Josh Woods look like he was part of Weave Nation. He was ducking and dodging and weaving. Promo spot from Jake the Snake Roberts and Lance Archer interrupts him to say that he is the deadliest shark in these deadliest waters. What is it with water? Come on, people. And AEW has yet to give him anything to eat, and he's tired and he's hungry. He's actually he almost acts like he wants competition, and in one sense of the word or another, he's asking for more. He says, give me something to chew on. You want to know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Ryback. He's got a podcast too, if you'd care to check it out. Ryback used to have this whole big shtick, right? Where he would come out and then he would say, feed me more. For those of you who don't know who Jason Ryback is, he was a linebacker or oh man, I fucking hate football. He was a forward tackler. He played some position in the NFL before coming over to the WWE in order to make a shit ton of money, because they, I guess, over in football wasn't paying him all that well. He looked like a steroided Jason Voorhees. But Jason Ryback eventually defected from the company, and once he did, unlike me, who's mature about my defection from Walmart, he started to point out a whole bunch of claims. He claimed that he got drugged at a party by Bray Wyatt, and he may or may not have gotten, RAPED. He may or may not have gotten sexually assaulted so to speak. He claims that he was the one who came up with the Shield, the idea of the Brotherhood, Brothers in Arms, the Shield, the three-man group that practically wrecked shop in the WWE from like 2013 until like 2016, maybe 2015. Yeah, 2015 probably. But anyway, it's not the point. Jason Ryback said that those were his ideas, to bring the Shield up and to, I guess, get raped at a party with Ryback, or with Bray Wyatt, rather. Anyway, he's made a whole lot of claims as well. Like, they planned on giving him the WWE Championship, and for 6 years, but nothing ever came of it, and he doesn't know why. It's probably due to an ankle injury. He comes up with the most obscene bullshit that I've ever heard in my entire life, and I've never heard anyone make so many excuses. So, anyway, it's just not. If you're going to check out his podcast, then please do it. I guess, he's probably not going to check out my podcast. But the point, of course, is that he's out there, Diamante versus Willow Nightingale, and this is our main event. And it wasn't a very good one. It was alright. Not very entertaining.